Pregnant waitress shares customer's horrific note that left her in tears. Birthdays, anniversaries, first dates, name them. These are all events that make us want to have dinner at a restaurant. We can choose to visit a classic or try something completely new. When you get started on your sumptuous meal, what you do next is entirely within your control. The choice on whether you will interact with fellow clients or the waitress is also yours to make. One waitress at a popular restaurant was going on with her business and was hopeful of a smooth shift. Unfortunately, a note from a customer shifted her mood and left her sobbing for a while. It seems that not all interactions are rosy. Waitresses do their best to help their customers in whatever way they can. Servers usually do their best to ensure that everyone they serve has the best time of their lives. Some waitresses give top-notch service with the hopes of getting a tip, while others do so out of the kindness. One waitress had struggled, and as she was about to make it to the end of her shift, something unimaginable happened. She received a note from one of the customers. Sadly, it wasn't as pleasant as she would have wanted it to be. The waitress in the story is Ashley Lynn. She resides in the US and spends most of her time working as a waitress. Although she is 8.5 months pregnant, Ashley gives her best to her waitressing role. It seems like she was willing to work her way until when she had to deliver. It would seem a natural reflex for everyone to respect and be kind to a heavily expectant lady. But that was not always the case. That evening, some mean customers were in the restaurant and were about to leave a lasting impression on Ashley. Ashley explained that she had been serving the mother-daughter duo some delicacies. She thought that everything was going well, but it wasn't. It had been a long day, and Ashley had worked hard to ensure they had everything they had, or did she? It seems that not all clients were happy with the service. It happens that this was one of Ashley's last shifts before she went for her maternity leave. She didn't know that this night she would have a bittersweet experience. 98% of her customers were pleasant, so this was an unusual shift. When Ashley found the note that the pair had left on the table, she was in distress. Just like the adage goes, a problem shared is half solved. So she turned to social media to talk about the incident and how it made her feel. With a baby on the way, Ashley had a lot to worry about, including the note. A co-worker noticed the effect the letter had on Ashley. Sharing was going to help her deal with the situation. The customers wanted to leave a message for Ashley, and since they didn't have her number, they made good use of the bill. The worst bit is that they used the space that would have otherwise been used to fill in a generous tip. The letter read, "May you have a very long labor." They completed the statement with, "Good luck, sweets." Nobody would imagine that anybody can wish a fellow woman to have prolonged labor. Like, who does that? Even Ashley didn't know that the pair had left a note until she was winding up her shift. It's so sad for the heavily expectant lady to end her night on such a low note. Ashley was having a busy night at the restaurant that day, and the mother-daughter duo was part of her customers. The women asked for a round of drinks, which was okay, but there was one issue. The laws across the state prohibit under 18s from taking alcohol. Ashley worried that the daughter was too young to take some of the drinks they had ordered. That is why she asked to see the young lady's ID. It's a simple routine that every waiter and waitress does. It turns out that the customers weren't pleased with the request. The fact that Ashley wanted to abide by the law didn't go very well with the woman and her daughter. What they didn't understand is that the request was beyond Ashley. Everybody in the service industry must stick to these rules, otherwise they lose their jobs. Ashley understood the consequences of failing to follow the regulations. It would have led to her losing the job. Worst case scenario, the restaurant might have lost its operating license. Ashley ran to social media to share the letter with her friends and the online community. What she didn't know was that the note would go viral and cross international borders. Several people have resorted to social media to share distraught notes that were left by mean customers. So Ashley wasn't a pioneer, but hers was surely one that left many people astonished. How could someone be this unfair? The waitress wanted the world to have a feel of what working in the service industry meant. A common misconception is that everybody is warm to waitress and pregnant ladies for that matter. It's time the world knew that not everyone is kind to the people that devote their time to serve clients at restaurants. Things aren't how they always seem. All the same, Ashley is happy to have pleasant customers. In her post, Ashley talks about how speechless she was when she first discovered the note. The waitress was used to dealing with lovely customers that would wish her well. At the end of her post, Ashley confesses that she wants to leave the negativity that the note bore behind and continue leading her happy life. It wasn't long before the online community expressed its disappointment in the letter that the customers left for the law-abiding waitress. One person stated that if the woman that wrote the note was confident that her daughter's old enough to drink at the restaurant, she should have been responsible for carrying her ID. We all know that having an ID is the only proof that one is an adult. Even if you feel like you are old enough, not everyone understands that fact, and it's your responsibility to prove your age when asked to. Another person suggested that Ashley should have avenged. The person said that they would have overcharged the card, such that the client would be forced to have the charge removed from their card. This would have been an easy way for Ashley to get a tip. If the woman realized that she had been overcharged, she would have called the restaurant to explain the situation, which wouldn't be an easy feat. However, doing this is illegal, and it's a good thing that Ashley did not do it. Someone noticed that the woman had filled out the bill incorrectly. Ashley posted the bill in a bid to rant how the customer had mistreated her, but she ended up revealing more. It turns out that the customer forgot to read all the sections before handing over the bill. The lady wrote that her total bill was $0 and then filled the bill in the signature section. It happens that some businesses charge a fine of 20% of the bill if things aren't filled out correctly, so Ashley would have received her bill either way. Many people admitted to having forgotten their ID when going to a restaurant. Although they were denied drinks on that account, they wouldn't have left such a nasty note like the one the woman and her daughter left for Ashley. The person that forgot to bring their ID said they couldn't have done anything since they knew it was their fault. In that case, the person chose not to order an alcoholic drink from the menu that evening, since they had no way of proving their age. Some people admitted that they have been asked to show their ID, and they did so without complaining. Therefore, this indicates that these things are pretty standard, only that the woman and her daughter in the story are petty. Now that these incidents are common, it beats logic as to why someone would want to waste their time rather than merely showing their ID. Many people were on Ashley's side. They understood that the situation must have been distressing to the expectant waitress. Some of them gave stories of their own when asked to show their IDs. The police forces are aware that some people drink even when they haven't reached the required legal age. That is why they send their officers to ensure that everybody enjoying a drink is legally allowed to do so. Most people commenting on Ashley's post want her to know she wasn't alone. Soon, some people started sharing their stories. One person said that they asked for an ID before serving a customer, and the client merely said the year they were born. That wasn't enough, and the server decided not to give the customer a drink. Later, they discovered that the client had left their ID in the car and wasn't willing to go back to get it. Another follower commented about a situation they had experienced in a restaurant. It turns out that customers on another table had already left, and they left something on the table. The narrator and his friends were curious to see what was written on the note. It turns out that the guys that had left the note were angered by the time the server had taken to bring them refills. For that reason, they had decided not to leave a tip. Another service provider told a story of how they were serving a large group of people who were mostly, ungrateful. The group in question consists of 1 woman, 2 men, and 5 kids. The server was already having a busy night. The group gave complex orders that would take the chef a lot of time to prepare. When the waiter explained this to them, they didn't even appreciate that she had taken the time to talk about the delay. The server continued to explain how, when she got to the table, the group was pretty rude, so the waiter forgot to bring the ranch. When she asked whether everyone's order was okay, the lady asked the server whether she had forgotten something. The waitress later brought the ranch and refilled their drinks. At this point, she was sure she had done everything right. When the waitress went to clear the table after the clients were done, she found that everyone other than the older child had bothered to tidy up. The table was in a mess, and that wasn't all. The server realized that the woman was writing something on a note. Out of curiosity, she decided to wait so that she can check what the lady was busy writing. Thankfully, the waitress didn't have to wait for long. It turns out that the lady was far from impressed by the service that she had received. On that note, she left a long list of things she felt the server should have improved on. Although the woman left a helpful tip for the waitress, the note dampened her mood. She couldn't think of anything else besides the unfair letter, and she tried not to be less than exceptional for the rest of the night. The first thing that comes to mind when you think of Ashley's story is probably how the note made her feel. Not many people would care to know whether the young girl in question got her drink or not. While we may want to keep things in proportion, the mother-daughter duo was unfair to Ashley, and nothing can change that. Besides, who would think of wishing another person long labor? That is beyond mean. In the end, Ashley wished the woman happiness. Many people would have written an equally mean letter or plotted against the woman, but Ashley was better than that, and she knew it. This is the best example of maintaining dignity in the face of individuals that don't have as much dignity as you do. Ashley did not reveal the woman's identity, which also goes to show her beautiful character. It all comes down to whether the woman in Ashley's story was wrong or right. Legally, the woman paid her bill in full. The only misdoing was that she didn't leave a tip. While most people on Ashley's post were against what the woman did, it is essential to remember that gratuity isn't necessary. That doesn't beat the fact that reality is what it is. For instance, in New Jersey, tipped employees receive a minimum hourly wage of $2.14, so tips aren't a must. When the dust and smoke have settled, the rude client got more than she asked for. Although Ashley was kind enough to hide her identity, people lashed their full rage on her. What Ashley didn't know was that her post would go viral, to the extent of getting to Australia. Thousands and thousands of eyeballs had the chance of perusing it. The event happened when Ashley was barely 8.5 months pregnant. That was her second to last shift at work. She felt sad to part ways with a job she loved so deeply, but the time to start a family had come. Sadly, she was going on her leave with such a bad taste. Considering how close the incident was to her exit, she would inevitably remember it for a long time. It is essential to talk about experiences like the one Ashley had because it helps us reconsider how we treat others. Let's hope that Ashley gets through labor safely and delivers a healthy baby. It's encouraging to know that there is some good left in people. For every person that wishes Ashley long labor, there is one who is generous, kind, and patient. Some people out here wish nothing but the best for other people. Let's talk about Courtney English. Courtney is also a waitress that was working while pregnant, just like Ashley. She was a few weeks away to her due date when this incident happened. Waiting tables is a tiring role, and it doesn't get any more comfortable when you're pregnant. Luckily, Courtney's employer and colleagues supported her immensely. They wouldn't allow her to carry heavy stuff or get into the warm places in the kitchen. Courtney was happy to work because she was determined to give her little one a proper life. Besides that, Courtney liked interacting with regular clients. One regular afternoon, Courtney happened to serve a not-so-regular client. She took his lunch order, which included water and a salad, and went on with her job. The police officer enjoyed his meal and Courtney's determination, too. It wasn't until after the policeman had left the restaurant that Courtney realized that he had left a massive tip for her. He accompanied the tip with this message: "Enjoy your first. You will never forget it." The officer's bill was $8.75, but he added a tip worth $100. It turns out that the policeman overheard Courtney talking about how she was excited to have her first child. That is why he went overboard to leave a pleasant note. At first, Courtney thought the guy made a mistake. She counter-checked the bill. She cooled down when she noticed the note at the bottom of the bill. When she realized the amount of kindness that the policeman displayed, Courtney was dismayed and overly grateful. When Courtney's story went viral, the police department confirmed that it was one of their officers that left a tip and note. The spokesman said that the officer wanted to remain anonymous because he was merely a stranger doing a kind act for another person. Courtney couldn't believe that such incredible people existed. She was deeply moved by the officer's gesture, which she described as really lovely and genuine. She said that it wouldn't have happened at a better time. It turns out that the soon-to-be mom had been struggling to save money over the past few months because so much needed to be done in preparation for the newborn. The man's kindness exhilarated her. Courtney's father, Brian Cadigan, was moved by the unnamed officer's actions and wasn't ready to miss out on the opportunity of thanking him. Brian posted a note on his Facebook profile reading, "There are a few bad apples in the police, but police are the most courageous members of society. They do many good things every day that we don't always hear about." Her dad's message was heartfelt, and many people related to it. The way he put it showed that the officer's gesture sincerely moved him. Brian wrote, "You made my little girl cry and also made her year." He signed off again by thanking him and saying that he dearly respected his career.